Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you to the Pakistan Business Council for convening this, what must be an ongoing, exciting conversation. But I'm just going to take a few minutes. I'm told I have a few minutes, not too many, to just talk about what's important to me, and I'm hoping what's important to all of us here. So while the captains of industry of Pakistan are in the room, I'm going to try not to hector anyone. That's the plan today. But I'm certainly going to think about where we are today and where we've been and where we want to go. And here's what I'm thinking about the private sector. We all know that this is meant to be driving our growth, our economy, and create the jobs we need to become a 21st century middle power. But I'm also thinking that making transitions, which is my business today, is hard. It's not at all easy. And while we check the boxes, many of us are unable to actually commit to the hyperscaling that's needed in today's world, and certainly today's Pakistan. So here's the context, since climate change is the issue here. The context is very clear globally in two sentences. Our emissions are rising globally, and our warming is rising globally. We are uninformed by data and knowledge on how fast that will be for Pakistan, but we certainly know that we are on the front line of climate-stressed countries. I think there's no confusion left about that anymore now. So while we understand this context, let's see where we are trying to balance what businesses need to do while trying to invest in a future that is sustainable. Now, businesses, as I understand it, need energy. Everybody needs electricity. I mean, let's cut to the chase. Everybody needs electricity, and Pakistani, at least big businesses, have a kind of conceptual schizophrenia in how they're seen and how they see themselves. Many, I'm going to say it, many see big business in Pakistan, and that's not just in Pakistan, as predatory or rent-seeking. I don't think it's quite as simple as that. I think businesses, from what I hear when I sit with them, are also facing a very challenging tax environment in Pakistan, are also facing, energy disruptions and unstable regulatory environments, which actually prohibits investment and long-term planning and predictability for, say, renewable energy investments, which are so necessary and so entirely possible and viable given our green resources. Now, I'm not going to stand here and hector you that you all need to invest in green energy or renewable energy. You're all thinking about that anyway for your own plants, but you're not all in the business of energy. Yet, without that, you would have no business. So we do have to think about energy and how we can shift to renewability in, say, a 10-year context, or look at mid-century. Now, if we're looking at mid-century, as we can see today, international businesses are pulling out, at least the big banks are pulling out of net zero alliances. The picture is not pretty. They're pulling out of net zero sustainability alliances. Here in Pakistan, the banking sector won't really do that because, well, they end up being fund managers and for the government. And at the end of the day, you are looking at a situation where there is still globally no acceptability of a linearity and pathway to sustainability, either by businesses or governments. And at the end of the day, Pakistani businesses and Pakistani people have to realize that, hey, no one's coming for you. No one's coming to, when I say coming for you, I mean no one is coming to pick up your pieces beyond a point. The age of the compassionate humanitarian multilateral order has passed. For now, we are living in a very fragmented, chaotic world. And what strategic investments must you make in the future in your businesses, in your people, and in your profits? How do you strike that triple balance is something that really I would like this council to spend more time roundtabling and developing a knowledge base about. And I know it's a tall order, but I think this is what we need to do. Now, Pakistan is talking about circularity. Many of your businesses are also talking about it and actually seeking to move into an economy that is circular, that's sustainable, but only the big businesses are. Let's see the percentages. They're huge. And you have companies like Engro and Unilever, very high-profile companies with deep pockets, able to set up their sustainability metrics. I'm not going to barrage you with data, but there they are. They are still big emitters. They continue to be big emitters, but they try to offset that with best green practices, as we call them. And when we do that, we see that these companies are actually not able to move beyond a point. They remain plateaued in their sustainability ventures. They may disagree, but I think that many are not able to actually disclose. I mean, reporting is an issue we all need to talk about and incentivize. Because without incentives, businesses don't do anything. I'm really done with the moral imperative to businesses. That's not how they make transformational, cyclical shifts. Businesses, people in the business of markets and profits will only make that with incentives or as a guardrail or hedge against a very uncertain and unpredictable future. So unpredictability is absolutely the new normal. Global heating, 2.5 degrees centigrade, difference not 1.5 is absolutely expected. And I'm doing a set of predictions for 2047 for someone else, and in that we're looking at a very, very gray Pakistan, if we are very clear. And in that graying, you have to look at the air, the quality of your air and the quality of your water. If you really boil it down, obviously your soil, your agriculture, but your quality of water and air are being hugely impacted by the non-circularity and non-sustainability of business practices. Yes, it is consumers. We are addicted to consumption. That's the entire 20th century. That's what they taught us, that you can't be wealthy without energy, and that meant fossil fuels, and that a country can't be wealthy even today without energy, sustainable, low-cost energy. And that's always dirty fuel. That's still the base load today, right? And so, what is the 21st century going to teach us, and what are we going to teach it? How are we going to define it? Let's not wait for the United Nations to tell us where we need to stand or somebody else. We are on our own, ladies and gentlemen, including your businesses. I'm grateful for multilateral cooperation when it surfaces in any form or shape, or even bilateral, but do not expect it anymore as a standard practice, which I see in, at least in government environments, I see a lot of expectation that, well, so-and-so will come and fix this for us. No one's coming to fix it for you. The one thing you've got to do, other than, of course, looking at how you're polluting the air and water with either plastics, with emissions from tanneries, nobody's talking about those. Those are huge for the water, from Kasur to Karachi, and obviously the plastics infiltration into our lives, which is going to cripple our waterways and going to cripple public health in ways that now you see air pollution doing, especially in Punjab in winter. And these are all year now. These are all year realities. So it's not just a winter season. The impacts on your throat, on your cardiovascular health, on just how you live and breathe is impacted by your business practices and our consumption behavior. We are all still looking at consumption as an end goal that must not be challenged. And obviously businesses need to project that. So instead of telling you what is normally said, you've got to create your own, how do you sort of make your supply chains less dirty, all of that is something you know about. All of that is something some of you report about, because we don't have a healthy culture of reporting. Now, I can say what I want about sustainability as a business till the cows come home. But unless there's a data-driven report culture and a place where we are actually looking at our sustainability markers or our actions, there's going to be no movement forward. And believe me, the world is still grappling with this. It's not just us. So, I mean, I don't know if companies here have any incentive for say, when they go for listings in terms of sustainability. Do they have them? I mean, does that matter? Does it give you a higher ranking? That happens in some of the stock exchanges, and that's something to consider. Build incentives. I would urge the Business Council, I see everybody sitting here, to have 2 short roundtables where you brainstorm, get yourself a consultant, you can do this, and ask them to write down what businesses can do to actually start working with data-driven knowledge. And secondly, I would ask, because these are big companies, as I said, no one's coming for you. Just cutting to the chase, you will have to use your comparative advantage, which is what at home? We have a huge youth demographic that is actually in the universities, from NAS to a remote university in Chagai, Balochistan, working on low-cost, innovative climate solutions. Young people out there are at it with the slightest of incentive, competitions, prizes, that's what's moving them to do this. So that tells me that we have a huge landscape of R&D to invest in, to give us the solutions we need while remaining profitable. Because companies are going to see, I can't hector you to throw away all your plastic waste without creating some kind of alternative to it. It's the plastic company, it's the producer, the manufacturer, who is going to have to make these shifts and innovations. I mean, I don't want to call out anybody, but we're only recycling 1% of our total solid and other waste. So if anyone's telling you otherwise, it's frankly rubbish. The world too is actually recycling only 9%. The entire world, including the big economies with their bins that separate organic from other waste. Well, they're trying. Europe is trying. But the next step will be that businesses will become uncompetitive if they're unable to mark or safeguard their businesses, their products that they're exporting, especially the textiles, to carbon border adjustments. You will face carbon border adjustments from the EU, for instance, where you have preferential access. I mean, I want to shift everybody's minds towards working with neutrality, carbon neutrality, as the only way forward. If you are not penalized for your exports, if you don't have the right carbon footprint or the reduced carbon footprint, you will become completely non-competitive. In fact, you may be barred. I mean, right now, many economies, our biggest export market for textiles is the United States. They're not putting this on you. But one fine day, they will. The EU is getting ready for carbon border adjustments. Now, this will happen to everything, to organics, from agriculture, to textiles, to surgical instruments that you export. So businesses have to think. If there's an airline, I see my friend sitting here with if there's an airline running, it will do better internationally, locally, in the market if it's presenting itself as a green airline. It's a bit of an oxymoron, but it has to do that. Companies are doing that. But once it does, it will be meaningless to a customer, to a passenger, to make the decision to whether to take that airline or not. I'll say, yes, this is a greener airline, let me take that. That's not how business decisions are made. That's not how passenger customer decisions are made. They'll say, this is the most convenient flight, I'll take that. So don't just think that token decarbonization or token sustainability matters. It will give you some brand buoyancy. It won't necessarily make you operationally resilient, but how do you stay operationally resilient? By investing in cleaner energy, by decarbonizing your supply chains, and how do you check on your supply chains and your suppliers and assume that they're telling you, they're sharing the data that is correct? Because we have no culture of any kind of data verifications. If you just Google how many tanneries are throwing very, very toxic waste into the Indus River, for instance, which is now the second most polluted river in the world, thank you very much, you won't find a repository. You won't find a data repository where this is happening. You won't know which businesses are polluting what in Pakistan. You'll create your own index of high performers on the ESG index, but you will not find a data bank telling you who is doing what. Now that is bizarre. Given that the 21st century is all about cleaning up the planet and ourselves and our own acts, right? So what would the business do? I mean, here what the PBC and all of you can do is create a tip sheet for yourselves and share it with people who can actually amplify those tips on how a business, medium size or large, can become sustainable without losing market share or regular operational resilience, all of that. Do we have one? I don't think so. It's a very basic thing, and it's needed. So that's one of the first things you do. Secondly, I would urge companies to start looking, big companies, to look at the waste opportunity. There's a whole $2 billion opportunity in recycling and organic biomass, all of that, those chains, those circularities available. Pakistan is dumping 30 billion tons of garbage every year. It's in our oceans and landfills. First it goes to the landfills and it lands up in our water bodies. So you're not only getting, one of the factories I know in Punjab is doing that, they're struggling, they're not getting help from anybody to set up a plant that whatever energy they're producing they use in their factory, it's a biomass one, the pellet one. So these are cutting edge technologies. Businesses only prosper with cutting edge technology, which brings me to the problem of R&D. Climate actions are totally science driven. They're not instinct driven. Only instinct driven to the extent that you know that nature is circular. Nature is just by its, in and of itself, its essence is circular. We are not. We have made sure we are not. Our 20th century habits have made sure we are not. So what do? We have to innovate. And that's not something we should balk at. Pakistan is spending 0.16% of its GDP on R&D. This is slowing down our competitive edge everywhere, but it is making sure you are not able to harvest and use your low-cost green solutions, let alone scale them up into the market as market solutions. It's happening in South Asia. It's happening in India. It's happening in Bangladesh. It's happening in many countries where what are known as the jugaad economies, where you fix everything. So that's a strength. You're an economy where you have the ability to fix things. You don't just throw it away, you reuse. That's your recycling. In Pakistan, India, all of South Asia, the innovation at the curb, at the small shop, at the light engineering bits is so high that people are able to repair things that are thrown away in other economies. We have advantages. Please, let's look at them. So the Jugaad economy is reusing its stuff. It's not throwing it away. It's not over-consuming. But what is your advertising doing? Lastly, you are big movers and shakers in public messaging. You don't realize it. Your ads, your commercials on TV run incessantly. They message the utility and luxury or otherwise of your product, how good your tea is, how beauty-inducing your soap is, all of that, how fast and brightening your detergent is. When you're doing that, please insist on embedding a sustainability message. Companies are doing that the world over. There's a famous ad for tea in India that runs on all corporate groups, that as a great example. Why is that not being done there, here? Why are the big advertisements not pushing for gender inclusive, high sustainability messages, which appeal to young people, which appeal to all your existing markets? You can do that. It's the power of your ad agency which has to manage this. This is not my job, but it's entirely doable. At least start doing that at no cost. You're spending billions in doing so. So when you talk about reuse, recycle, that's where you do this. That's where you do this, and sometimes it may seem like a hit you're making at your own product because you need more volume, sales. But believe me, the brand bump that you will receive by just doing that will put you at another level of future companies. And that is the future, insisting on sustainability at every step, either at reporting, either at your supply chains, either at your core business practices, especially core business practices. I mean, we go into any of our businesses and we'll find that that's not the case. So appoint sustainability reviewers or checkers in your factories and in your plants. You've got to do that. And finally, look at the message you're sending out. It is not one of sustainability. It is still one of consumption that is unchecked. I'm sure you can swing the new message of sustainability for businesses that are going to drive the new climate solutions revolution in Pakistan. Because the countries where businesses drive solutions are the ones that win out. It's not done by governments. For government, you've got to demand your incentives and your regulatory environment. With that, we can all help. Thank you very much.